I'm Blair King. I'm the city manager of Bainbridge Island, and we're here today to talk about the Cooper Creek Fish Passage project. We have some great people that who are experts in their field, who can give us insights and information into the Cooper Creek project, what it is, why are we doing it, why are we doing it a particular way. We want to be able to provide the community information about this project. We know that questions have recently arisen, particularly dealing with the closure of the road, Eagle Harbor Drive, and wondering why that is to be done. I'm here with Chris Wierzbicki. He's our Director of Public Works. Dave Berry, who's the Superintendent of Redside Construction, who is our contractor with this project. And I will say Redside Construction is also doing our high water tank, and we're very pleased with that. Deb Rudnick, who is the Chair of the Bainbridge Island Watershed Council, and Gina King, who is the Conservation Director of the Bainbridge Island Land Trust, and Joe Clark, our Chief of Police. So, Chris, I'm going to start off with you. What is this project, and basically why are we doing it? What are we trying to fix, and why are we doing it now?
Sure. So what we're talking about is actually a suite of two different projects. That's the discussion about which started about 3 years or so ago. Originally, the project was intended to address non-motorized improvements, so improvements for bicyclists and pedestrians using the Wyatt Way and Eagle Harbor corridor from about Ashbury Court, which is a small residential street off of Wyatt, around the head of the bay to the intersection with Eagle Harbor Drive. We started looking at those improvements about 3 years ago, and we determined that one of the things that would need to get improved as a part of that project is a real pinch point where there is a stormwater culvert just north of where the Green Light Garage is located that passes Cooper Creek underneath of Eagle Harbor Drive. So if we wanted to widen that section of the road to accommodate pedestrian and bicycle access on both sides, we would have to replace that culvert. And under Washington state law, if you have a fish passage location, fish passage culvert, where you have documented fish, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, you can't just put another culvert back in the ground. You have to basically build something that is a more natural stream environment that will allow spawning fish to go upstream into the wetlands that are on the opposite side of the road. So we envisioned this as a comprehensive project to do these pedestrian and bicycle improvements and the fish passage. And then we determined that it was going to take us, we have some federal money in the project. There's a grant that we received, about $1 million to support the project. And we realized that if we were going to try to build the fish passage component of the project with that $1 million, the permitting to get that project approved was going to take a couple of years. And we really didn't want to wait that long to get the project done. So we decided to split the project up into two parts. We have a non-motorized project that is going to build the pedestrian and bicycle improvements that is also starting this summer, probably in August. It will build improvements from Ashbury Court all the way down to around the head of the bay to Eagle Harbor. And then we have a separate project that's going to be happening at the same time, which is the replacement of this culvert at Cooper Creek with a fish passage improvement. And so the road closure is really related to the fish passage. It's a really narrow corridor, and there's not a lot of space to be able to keep the roadway open while we're replacing that culvert. And so we've determined that a road closure would be probably the best thing for both the project construction and for the public safety. And so we're moving ahead with a closure to be able to get that project accomplished starting on July 16th. We anticipate it's going to take us about 3 months to get it done. And some of the details on construction I'll leave to Dave to talk a little bit about as well. But generally, that's the project we're talking about.
So, Chris, I want to come back to you later on, and we'll talk a little bit about why 2025 and why we're doing that. But Gina, no relation, great last name. So as a layperson, I've heard a bit about the issue of Washington State and restoration of fisheries and related to issues of fish passage. But why do we care about that in Bainbridge Island? And why is the Land Trust involved in that in Bainbridge Island?
Yeah, great question, Blair. So our Land Trust is all about keeping all the pieces of biodiversity on Bainbridge Island. So keeping our functioning streams and forests and wetlands and shorelines. And we're working increasingly at landscape and watershed scales with partners like you folks and Bainbridge Island Watershed Council, and trying to prioritize the actions that will be most impactful in restoring our natural systems. And one thing we did was working with the Wild Fish Conservancy to do actual on-the-ground surveys of all of our streams and all of our culverts on those streams. And what they found was a remarkable 241 of these structures on our fish habitat streams. And of those, they could characterize 199 of those as to whether they allowed fish to pass through or if they were some kind of a barrier. And what they found was that 30% of them were non-barriers. 36% were partial barriers. That is, the conditions have to be just right for fish to be able to get through those. And 35%, 69 culverts are full fish passage barriers. So the fish can't get through those. So there's only so much you can do to restore these systems for the fish if the fish can't get up there and use those streams. So it's really important to figure out which of these are the highest priority and the ones lowest in the system, the ones that have the most potential to, if you replace that culvert with a non-fish barrier, the ones that have the most potential to have biological lift in that system for the fish to be able to use them.
I want to come back and talk to you a little bit more about the worthiness of trying to restore fisheries. But Deb, in terms of Cooper Creek, I've heard several people just this week tell me there's no fish there and fish won't return there. What do you think about that? Are there fish there? Will fish ever return? Or?
I've seen them with my own eyes. Yeah, we do have fish in the Cooper Creek system. So we have quite an assortment of fish in that system. We have cutthroat, we have multiple salmonid species, which are the anadromous fish that move in and out of our streams and back into the ocean in certain parts of their life cycle. So we have cutthroat trout, we have coho, that use that system. I can talk more about it, but Watershed Council, in partnership with the city and the tribe, did actually a chum supplementation program for 4 years for that stream to try to bring chum back after an impoundment was removed from that stream system in the early 2000s that was completely blocking passage. And we also have smaller fish like stickleback and sculpin that move in and out of that stream system and into the tidal head of the bay. So yep, there's lots of different types of fish that are using Cooper Creek.
What do you say about people that say it's gone too far, we can't restore the fisheries, the amount of money that's being spent in general, and this project itself is about $3 million, it isn't worth it?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things to prioritize in this world, and everyone has different priorities. I think we have a region that cares a lot about fish for a number of different reasons. We have important tribal interests. We have people, I think a lot of people on Bainbridge Island who are very interested in protecting our island environment. It's one of the reasons a lot of people move here and love living here is because of the natural resources that we share. And fish are an important part of that. And salmonids in particular are really a lifeblood for our stream systems throughout the Pacific Northwest. They connect the marine environment to the terrestrial environment, and particularly ones that move into these systems as adults and then die in the streams and sort of become embedded in the fabric of our riparian vegetation and all the animals that eat them. They're extremely important to ecosystem health. So I see protecting them as an integral part of protecting the health of our watersheds in general. I hope a lot of folks share that, but I also understand that there's a lot of things that need our attention. Yep.
So, Chris, we said that the project is, this is another bundled project with a non-motorized project that, and this fish passage, it makes sense that without, can't really do the non-motorized without addressing the fish passage because we'd have another choke point. In terms of the methodology of doing this, Dave, people have said we don't need to shut off the road entirely, and that's kind of what also has contributed to. It doesn't matter what the benefit is, the disadvantage of closing off the road doesn't make it worthwhile. In terms of the construction methodology, why do you need to shut off the road?
You really only have three options. You can either do an additional lane, so you can have 2 lanes passing a closed lane where the work's done, like we've all seen on Highway 305. But in this case, there isn't room to either side of, I think there's private property on both sides of the project. Single lane closures work great for low volume roads, roads that are quite a ways out in the Tules. But if you get a major artery like Eagle Harbor Drive, Wyatt is, to do a single lane closure is going to be very frustrating for a lot of people. They may not get through the first couple of cycles of releasing cars from one side or the other, which is frustrating for people. The other effect is that it means the project takes twice as long to complete. So the frustration lasts twice as long as simply closing the road down, getting it over with, and opening it back up.
Chris, what is the fish window and who made up the fish window?
Yeah, so the state regulates projects that occur within the waters of the state. And so this project is occurring within the waters of the state. There's tidal influence of Eagle Harbor on the one side of the road, and then there are actually tidal wetlands on the west side of the road, on the upland side. So in order to get this project approved, we had to get a permit from the state to work in water, as they say. And there is what's called a fish window, which is the time when the least amount of fish activity is happening in the stream and in the tidal areas, when it can actually be closed down and the work can be performed. That time frame is between July and August. It's when we've done all of our other projects that have been in water or below the ordinary high water line. For example, the Country Club bulkhead project that we did last year, 2 years ago, maybe it was 2 years ago. Same thing, we had work that was happening beyond the ordinary high water mark. We had to accomplish the project within that same time frame. Projects that work in water around the state are restricted to that same block of time.
Did we get an Army Corps permit for this project?
Yes, we have a permit. We have, and fish passage projects actually are seen as an enhancement of the environment. So the permit process is a little bit more streamlined than it would be if we were trying to build a bulkhead or something else that would have an overall negative impact on the shoreline.
So I have a question for Chief Clark. So I am one of those people that live at the south end. Should I be worried if I have a medical condition and I need to get out of there quickly with the road closure and all the traffic? What's going to happen to that, and should I be worried?
Well, certainly closing down the Eagle Harbor there is going to induce some delays, but we're mindful of that. We're going to be out monitoring traffic flows through the area because of the detour, making sure everything stays open and flowing smoothly. If we find any impediments to that, we want to get those cleared as quickly as possible to make sure that route stays open. So with emergency response in general, it's entirely unpredictable. Depending on where we are when we receive the call and the route that we take to get there, we have to react to those sort of on the fly. So we have to prepare for that. The officers know the island, they know the routes to take to get where they need to be in a timely fashion. When we talk about emergency planning, we start with the recognition that we are an island and there are only two paths off this island, and one or both of those could be impacted in any sort of critical incident. And so we have to be prepared for those eventualities, and sometimes we have to build the resiliency so that we can improvise where we need to, whether it's finding an alternative route or an alternative method to get where we need to be. We don't respond from a fixed location. We respond to the call wherever the officer happens to be out on patrol. Certainly the fire department is looking at their response and their staffing so that they can maintain their standards as well.
So that includes things such as if there's need be, you would convert roads to 2 lanes in one direction if there was a reason to, or if depending upon the nature of what we needed, we would look at alternative methods.
Absolutely, and that's part of our planning for evacuating the island as a whole. We have a 2-lane bridge that it only makes sense to use both lanes to evacuate if we're to that level of an incident.
I have seen your officers with using a hand axe to chop up a tree in the middle of the road. I still don't know why they're using the hand axe to do that, but they were successful in removing the tree out of the middle of the road. So That's what I mean by adjusting to the circumstances and improvising when they need to.
Right. So many of our neighborhoods are accessible by just one road, and if it's a manageable tree that's down blocking the road, it'll stop all traffic. But if we can pull it out of the way or move it out of the way, as you said, with the hand tools, then we want to do that and get that road open as soon as possible.
Here's another question for Gina and Deb, and I don't know the answer to this, but is there a type of universal clock that's running, and as we try to, in other words, if we don't restore fisheries or wetlands now, will they degrade further and the ability to bring them back will be reduced? In other words, are we fighting against time as we try to do these projects?
Who wants to take that? I can start. Why don't you chime in?
Yeah.
Yes and no. It's never a bad idea to do these projects wherever they can come in the list. It's always a good idea to do restoration and support of fish and fish habitat. But you're right that there are certain things that are not working in our favor, climate change being a big one, and we have increasing number of stressors from a number of directions associated with climate change that affect fish and fish habitat, including ocean acidification and sea level rise, and changes in our kind of precipitation patterns over time that will make our summers drier and our wetter winter, and that will change our stream hydrology. There's a number of different factors involved there. We also are constantly fighting things like invasive species, which are affecting our wetlands and our tidal areas, and those are very hard to get ahead of, and if they get established, they become harder to get ahead of. So there's certainly things that as time goes on and we don't address restoration proactively, it makes it that much harder the more we delay to do those things. And also I would say our salmon are having a very tough time of it, and most fish in general in Puget Sound for a number of reasons, some of them related to pollution, some of them climate change. And as numbers of fish dwindle, there is less and less opportunity to kind of regain ground against that pressure as well. I don't know if you want to add anything to
Yeah, that's
that.
what I was going to say. It's such a critical time for our salmon that we really don't have time to wait. Everything that we can do as soon as possible is going to be beneficial, and especially if you still have some fish that remember that stream, that's definitely a closing window right there. Otherwise, you're relying on just kind of the ones that tend to stray to come up into your stream systems. And another thing about our salmon runs, they are very small. Somebody pointed out this interesting thing about the fact that our stream systems are short and they're kind of warm, and the salmon that do utilize our systems actually have the kind of genes that like a lot of salmon runs are going to need. That kind of adaptability to those conditions is actually a really good genetic pool.
We don't have to use that. I don't really mean to put you on the spot, but can you do the 5 salmon species on your hand thing? Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
That would be Deb.
Well, I have Chum and Pinky, and
Okay, you got 2?
Yeah,
Chum,
yeah.
Pinky. So, and this one?
King. Right. Well, King.
This is your silver.
Silver.
This is
Okay.
Or coho.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is the biggest finger.
Yeah.
So that is their king,
Okay,
or Chinook. And this is the sockeye.
Sockeye.
This
Yeah.
is doing the eye.
Okay. Okay. We're gonna definitely use that then.
Okay,
This
excellent.
is the one takeaway from this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So one of the things I'm trying to understand or get to, if we didn't do this project this year, in 2025, would we do this project eventually?
Well, there's a lot of factors that make up the decision related to this. And one thing I just wanted to add related to the last conversation before we answer that question too is that from the perspective of the state, this is a really important project to get done. We can tell that because the state invested $750,000 in climate and State's Climate Investment Act grant program into this project. So they saw it as a critical priority for us. And I think we're seeing a lot of fish passage culverts get done by the state on state highways. Not all of those are located with direct access to Puget Sound. So a lot of those are upstream where there's still other barriers downstream where preventing fish from getting to those locations. This is a location that is directly at the head of the bay where fish that are in Puget Sound have direct access to this new fish passage. With regard to the question of whether it would get done in a future year, I mean, we certainly considered timing for the project as a whole. We considered timing for breaking up the project and determining if that would make more sense. Overall, we decided that as we took the same kind of approach with the bundled Madison project, is that we want to try to get all the disturbance related to this project over in a single construction season as much as possible. The non-motorized portion, it's possible we haven't seen a schedule for that yet, but we may have some bleed over into early next year. But generally, the time frame is much condensed to be able to do it all at one time. And so that's really our goal, is to try to do it at once.
David, Barry, so we have 2 projects and 2 contractors. How do you envision working with the other contractor? That's one question. And can you talk to us from a contractor's point of view about issues associated with cost of mobilization?
Well, mobilization, we're mobilizing right now. It involves bringing in the steel piling for the shoring, the street sheets for the shoring, the various pieces of equipment. Mobilization is a costly thing. This year it's going to be less expensive than it will be next year, just the way finances work. I'd like to add one thing too about the emergency access. One of the reasons we brought the message boards in early is so people see them, get used to the idea that the road's going to be closed, because we are concerned that somebody didn't see them, wants to go that way in an emergency and has to make a detour. The detour is only 4 minutes longer. And in fact, those people trying to get to the ferry are going to be pretty much the same, because if you go down Wyatt and turn up to get to high school so you can get on the ferry, it's about the same amount of time.
And in addition to that, we've provided a pedestrian bridge that is going to allow bicyclists and people who are walking along the corridor to be able to continue to pass just next to the construction site and be able to access the same route that they normally would. We are gratefully granted an easement from the neighboring property to be able to provide that bridge. It's actually in place now. People can go see it out there and to have a look. Folks will have to dismount from their bike in order to get across the bridge. It's fairly narrow, not wide enough for 2 people to pass, but it's a short stretch, and it really will provide a much better convenience for folks who are either walking or riding their bike to the ferry or to town.
David, in terms of schedule, what is the pragmatic probability, not the extreme, but the pragmatic probability that you will not complete within the contracted construction period?
I would say it's very low. I mean, we feel that we can perform, and we'll give it our very best.
And maybe talk about again, not that the 3 alternatives bypasses, which we don't have because we don't have the right of way, and also because it's wet. So we would not have been able to secure probably a permit to go in the other place, which does bring a question up about emergencies. But what about the issue of where you're constructing, we're preventing water from both sides from coming into the work area, and also we have these big wing walls that are coming up, and this is a mix of, as I understand it, poured in place and prefabbed.
Yes, a couple of the technicalities on the project is that it involves excavation about 18 feet down, which is a fairly deep excavation, especially when you're in basically the intertidal zone. You've got water all around you, and you got to go deep, which is another reason why a single lane closure really doesn't work. Because if you're going 18 feet down and trying to keep one lane open, you have to drive sheet pile all the way down that line, and you've got to close that lane while you're driving sheets anyway. So it really is sort of self-defeating to try to do a single lane with excavations of that depth. The box culvert itself is precast. The wing walls are precast. The panels for the soldier pile wall will be precast. The wall to the south side will be shotcrete, so that'll be actually poured in place or shot in place. The way the box culvert goes in is you dig down the 18 feet, you put a good base in for it, you build the sections, and the box culvert is made in 2 halves, 5 pieces to the bottom half, 5 pieces to the top half. So you place all those sequentially. put the wing walls in, backfill up a certain distance, then create the habitat inside the box culvert, run water through it, make sure everybody's happy with the way it looks and functions. Then you put the top on and reconstruct the road and call it good.
So, Chris, this is a project that benefits the environment. We know that we have wanted to do it for some time. We've been working on the design for the non-motorized portion of this project for years, since 2022 at least. Why wasn't the public notified sooner about the full road closure?
Yeah, so we've been working to design the project, as I said, for a number of years. We have a consulting engineer that we've been working with. But it really wasn't until we got the contractor on board in May and we started working through what's called the means and methods of construction for this project that we determined that the closure was going to be more extended than we thought. We always kind of thought there was going to be a brief closure, something more on the lines of less than a month. But as we got into talking with Dave and his folks about the most efficient ways of getting this project done within the fish window timeframe, which is already pretty short, we came to the conclusion that the road closure really was the best option. And so as soon as we knew that, we started putting out information to the public about the closure.
Well, so I'm going to ask you two questions. What about the business that's down there at the head of the bay? What provisions have been made to mitigate potential financial harm to them?
Yeah, Greenlight Garage. So the folks at Greenlight Garage have been really cooperative in working with us through this project. We've had to acquire both permanent and temporary construction easements from them in order to get the project completed. They're working with Redside on using the nearby property for some laydown areas. So they've been great to work with, and their business is going to be open throughout construction, and we have businesses are open sign. We are trying to ensure that the public knows that this business is open for business while the construction is going on.
And what have we done to coordinate with other agencies, whether they be Kitsap Transit, the school district, the fire department, and what have we done to notify, say, businesses that the Wyckoff site or Linwood businesses, what have we done to try to coordinate or notify them?
Yeah, I'll start with the Wyckoff site, which is most people know as kind of the Pritchard Park site in Eagledale. So the EPA is building a project there, a mediation project for the Superfund site. They have quite a bit of truck traffic coming in and out. We've been notified them of the closure as early as we could. My understanding is that they were going to try to stockpile some materials on site so they could kind of limit how many truck loads would need to go through the detour, as well as using some smaller trucks to be able to access the site better where there's some tight turns and things like that. So we've been working closely with them. We also work closely with kind of the other folks who are involved in emergency management at the city. That includes the police department, the fire department, the schools, and Kitsap Transit. We are kind of doing some advanced planning around how we could use operations and maintenance flaggers or other folks to supplement during an emergency or an evacuation situation.
And we are looking at temporary signals. What are we looking for at these locations for temporary signals? And if they go forward, when might they go forward?
Yeah, so we are. We have a planned detour route that will go in place on July 16th. It includes detour signage. It also includes at least one and maybe two locations where there will be a one-way only location on a smaller segment of roadway to kind of funnel traffic into a safer direction. We're also going to be doing observations right after the closure, beginning the day of the closure and the week following. And observing some key intersections where we feel like there could be some backups or other sorts of traffic issues. If we see issues that can be mitigated through either temporary stop signs or temporary traffic lights at those locations, we'll make sure to be on that and get those applied in those locations. But first we're going to just observe the conditions, and then we'll be proposing some mitigation options if necessary.
And we've reached out to the online map companies to let them know that about this detour.
We have the detour should show up on your Google map once it goes in place. So yes, we have done that.
So yeah, the various companies. So people should. I know from past experience, if you don't do that, people are very faithful following the directions on their maps, even when the sign says road closed.
Can I add? We have an extensive signage system going in. Everything from telling pedestrians and bicyclers that they can use the small bridge, to the businesses remaining open, to detour signs, hopefully comprehensive enough so that people will understand that they're on the detour and it's going to work and it's going to get them to where they want to go. So hopefully the signage is good. I think it'll help.
Gina, Deb, David, Chief, thank you for joining us and walking us through. And the purpose of doing this is to try to provide the community with information about the reason, the importance of the project, to address questions such as, again, that there's no fish here, so why are we doing this? And then to also let people know that we are aware of the potential for people's concerns about safety, and we definitely are aware of the inconvenience piece, but we're looking forward to getting this done.